everybody. Anu, I would like to share something on the screen. So
yeah, I'm just giving you 1 minute.
Yeah.
So I would like to say a little bit around Karuna before she begins sharing. And Karuna is a very, very soft-spoken, sensitive, extremely intelligent person. And she's made a promise to me that she's going to be teaching me about dentistry so that I can connect more around the teeth and help you guys back. And for me, my story with her began with, let me share it with you guys. मस्ती तो करनी है तो फिर ठीक से की जाए. 1 सेकंड दीजिए. आप शेयर करें तब तक मैडम. करना है आपने शेयर कि मैं करूं पहले?
आप पहले share करो because I'll continue with I have a slideshow to share the whole talk that I'm doing.
Okay, wonderful. So just give me a minute. Okay. I will put it at the end. I don't want to spend time doing it right now. I'm not. I'll have to go into my. Just give me a minute. Let me do it. अगर दिमाग में आया है तो कर ले. I will connect with another ID and then show you guys something. There we go. जो दिखना चाहिए वो दिख नहीं रहा है. आपको किसी को आप ऐसे करो. आप go ahead and I will come back later. Okay? चलो आप करो.
So I'm going to, you'll be seeing mostly the slides and will be hearing me.
Yes.
So what I'm here to talk about is the mystical love, the unconditional love, the state of being in love, right? We all have heard about this thing, to love unconditionally, but how? And what are the very human ways of getting to that? Nobody's really answered that question ever. At least for me, there was no answer. And what I found on my journey is I'm making use of transactional analysis, and I'm really thankful to Dr. Eric Berne, who's the founder of that therapy, philosophy, psychology, the theory, whatever one might call it. And he literally showed what all you really need to take into consideration when you want to love and be love, when you want to love another person and you want to feel that love coming from the other person, because there are so many ways that people love. Okay, so, and I call it affection and appreciation. And when we look at these words, affection and appreciation, they seem like very tender words. But if we really look into these words' meanings, what they actually mean, they are the powers. They can actually influence the other person. The appreciation specifically, it's an influencing power that we all have available to us. And affection, of course, that's the beginning of each one of our lives. Like when the newborn comes into a house, affection is all that child gets, right? And when the child starts growing up, when the child starts moving around, appreciation is the second thing that the child gets. And that is the beginning of love for each one of us. But somewhere on the journey ahead from that stage, it kind of gets lost. But is it really lost? Let's see what is happening here. So before beginning actual thing, I would like to take a moment here, and I just want to thank all of my teachers, because what I'm bringing out wouldn't have been possible if any one of these were not there. Because purely going to transactional analysis and only learning the concepts, I don't think so I would have been able to connect it to love the way I am connecting it, and I'm seeing the effects of it as well in my life, in my personal life. And so this is something that we all want. There is nobody who is not hungry for love, right? But what are the practical, very human ways to really fish for that love is what we are hoping somebody will tell us, but it doesn't really happen. So what I'm calling this is the pragmatical approach to the mystical love. And the concept that I'm using is the stroke. This is purely for people who would really like to maybe look into what I am talking about and why I'm connecting it to love little later. And these are the two main people I am really in debt of, because if they hadn't worked upon this thing, I wouldn't have understood why certain things happened in my life the way they happened. And what happened was this: I was a very, very violent, and that is exactly opposite of what Anu said about me. I'm a very tender person. But yes, that was the reality of me at one point in time. And it was right at the time of the birth itself. I had lost my balance. I can say that today. So it went on for nearly 4 or 5 years, and my daughter actually started saying, "Why are you a home mother? Why can't you be a working mother like other mothers? The moment I see you, I feel like shouting, screaming, and at times even hitting you." So these were her words in her own language at that point in time. And obviously, that was a big blow to me as a person, as a mother, as a human being as well. But today, where I find myself is just the opposite of that, where she is like, "When are you finishing your call? I want to talk to you. I have so much to share with you. We haven't spoken for, one whole day, and I haven't shared so much with you." So it's a complete makeover from where it began. And when I came to transactional analysis, and when I started understanding these concepts, is when I started making connections. What work had I done? I was calling it self work all the time, not really knowing what I was doing. So I am going to, okay, I don't know if anybody over here knows about transactional analysis. Can you just give me a thumbs up if you know it, and thumbs down if you don't know it? Will it be possible? Most of the people are okay, lovely. I have at least two people who have given me a thumbs up. So I'm not going to go very much into the theory, even in short. This is the organization of the mind, how our mind is organized. And these are the ego states. P is for parent ego state, A is for adult ego state, and C is the child ego state. That is what transactional analysis has given us as a very compact way of looking into our minds. What is this child ego state? Is actually everything, all the thoughts, feelings, and behaviors of myself. This is where my needs, my instincts, my potentials, and for some very specific reason, my limitations also reside. So this is my child ego state. Then parent ego state is all that I have taken from outside. So It's all introjected. By introjected I mean I do not edit anything that I see, that I experience, that I hear. I just take it all whole and put it into myself and keep it there till I use it. And most of the times this part is coming unawares. Even in my behavior till the day I die, this part comes really unaware, until and unless of course we work upon it, we take notice of this thing and really look into this. The adult ego state is a very computer like system. It takes it input, it uh, like literally processes it into usable, essential bits of information, and then whenever I am in a position where I need to respond, it synthesizes with respect to whatever I have already stored as essential bits of information, our memories, all the stories that we have in our mind, and a lot more with respect to what is showing outside of me, to which I have to respond. And it gives me a response, a synthesized response, and that is how I behave. So that is our mind in very short nutshell. And why I'm talking about this is because my needs, as I said earlier, are in the child ego state. And this affection and appreciation that I'm going to talk about today has been regarded as the fourth basic need of the human being. And why so? Because there has been documentation of if there is lack of this appreciative and affectionate exchange, or what I call, or what the transactional analysis calls as strokes, the child can even die. So they have researched into it as well, and it is all documented. Now, what is actually this stroke? It's a unit of recognition. When I say hello to you, how do you feel inside? You feel a sense of recognition about yourself coming from me. And that is what stroke is. And that is also what affection and appreciation in the early years for a child does. It gives the recognition for that child. And that is also why, as a child, as a parent, we just want to be with the child, and you know uh, keep on playing with the child, keep on talking with the child. Just there is nothing else important except for that child, because we really want that child to stay alive, to survive, to grow. And it is this recognition that is doing all of that work. So what I'm henceforth I'm saying is that stroke is the giving and receiving of affection and appreciation to each other, that we keep on doing even when we are just looking at each other. So we'll see that. So this is recognition of you, and or what you do or you have, or otherwise, either ways, either you have it or you don't have it. Recognition of everything possible, which can be done by a simple exchange of affectionate and appreciative um, exchange. Now, neurologically, it is said that this stroking stimulates the reticular activating system, and this system is what undergoes degeneration if this affection and appreciation is lacking in the environment for the child initially, in the initial 1 or 2 years itself. And it is said to be the source of the neural energy for the system to go on by the way of stimulating that part of the brain. Now, what is it for? It is very, very important for survival. As I shared earlier, I mean, the effect of it, if I have to give you an example, we all know about the concentration camps. And the most brutal treatment that was meted out to people over there was the seclusion chambers, where they were fed the basic minimal food, water, air was there, and they were allowed to defecate. But what was missing was the human contact, the eye contact, the connection with through any kind of sensorial stimulation. And what happened to most of those people was either they died in that chamber itself, or when they came out, they literally killed themselves. And very, very brutal deaths is what have been documented um, as a result of that seclusion or separation treatment that was given to those people. So it's very, very important for the survival and of course the growth, because the, the energy that is running my system this is the simplest way to provide the energy. We keep on saying, I'm low on energy, I don't feel up to doing certain things, but what actually is lacking is just the stimulation. I talk to my friend, or I talk to even myself, and I can bring back this energy within myself and start working whatever I was thinking of working, but I couldn't because I was feeling bored, I was feeling low, and all of that. It's very, very simple thing. It's very effective way of modifying any kind of behavior, and that is what I saw happening when I started working with myself, because the changes that I was bringing into myself was being noticed by my daughter. And initially it was a surprise for her, but then she took real notice of that and she started slowly moving towards me. So by purely modifying my behavior, I instigated most modification in her behavior as well. And how all of that we'll come to know a little later. So it is, it has the power of making and breaking the relationships. For that matter, any kind of change that we want can be brought about by this affectionate and appreciative exchange, which is stroke. Now, what are the different forms of it? Very simple: physical, right? I can the hug that we give each other, how does that make us feel? The moment we get a hug, it's like I get this warm feeling in my heart area, and I start feeling this small smile coming up on my lips. What is happening over there energetically? If you look at it, it's purely opening up your heart space. Neurologically, if you look at it, it's stimulating the reticular activating system and giving energy to your nervous system. And uh, I mean, I can definitely go on from different perspectives, but then we will be short on time. It can be utilized verbally. So verbal strokes, like I'm talking to you and you are hearing me. This is another kind of a stroke, a kind of exchange. Now, it can be positive. So if my speaking is having a warm feeling, is giving you a warm effect, then it is positive for you. But if I'm talking like, hey, are you listening to me? It automatically becomes negative for you. So it's just this much of modification and the effect changes. But in the end, it is all exchange. Then it can be conditional, where I put conditions to what I am telling the other person. Like if I say that, um, I really like the way you put your point across. I am, it's not, it is something that you have done, and I am appreciating you for that doing. So there is a condition attached to this appreciation that I am giving you. So that makes it conditional appreciation or conditional stroke. Then there are unconditional strokes. This word is very interesting, right? Unconditional. Where does it touch? It touches the core of each of us. In the initial part where I showed you the child ego state, there is a part in that child ego state which we are born with. So when we are born, at mental level, it's only that child ego state that we are born with. The rest of the two ego states are constructs that we construct for ourselves to be viable in our environment. So this unconditional stroking is stroking that child ego state, where our vitality resides, where our talents reside. And this is why this unconditional love has been, it's the most powerful thing that can bring about anything in this world, because it is going to directly affect my vitality, my it is going to open up me to my own talents as well. It has that much power in it. And then it can be a true stroke, or it can be a fake stroke, or it can be an internal or external stroke. Now, what do I mean by true stroke? True stroke is simply when I mean what I'm saying, and fake is just the opposite of it. But now here's what I found very interesting. Even when I was getting fake strokes, my mind really doesn't bother about it because the mind is stimulated already, right? It's what I do after getting that stroke and how I work with what I have received. If I add, the reality thoughts to that, I am going to probably take away that stimulation that has already happened for me, and or maybe may turn it into negative stimulation for myself. So be wise, be very prudent at what are you taking in and what is the purpose for which you are taking in. It's very interesting. Our mind doesn't really know if this is real or not. It has taken it. The system has taken the energy. It has taken the stimulation. Now, what um, meaning I add to it is up to me. What I'm saying is that even if it is a fake stroke, take the stimulation part, but after that, if the need is there to let the other person know that you know it is fake, speak about that. But extract that essential aspect that has already been given to you. It's all available. Now, internal and external strokes. Internal stroke is purely when I'm talking to myself. So here is where the self critic, it's just amazing, right? It keeps on giving me the unstoppable supply of negative stroking, and it just ruins my life. So it's very, very important to know where all these things are coming from, because then we can pinpoint and we can really look at each and everything and work with them separately. Now, there are majorly four strokes that I today want to talk about, and these are unconditional, conditional, positive, and negative. Why? Because rest of the others can become, it can be like physical positive stroke or physical negative stroke or internal positive stroke or internal unconditional stroke. You can simply combine them. But then these four have certain characteristics which we need to be aware of to be able to work with them. So let's begin with the positive stroking. It is what, when I get positive stroke or when I give positive strokes to somebody, it validates that particular behavior and allows that. And it has a manipulative generative energy. So what do I mean by manipulative and generative at the same time? It definitely generates, you know, the effects that I really am hoping to come up in the other person. It has that power, but at the same time, there is a slippery slope attached to it as well. Now, because I know this thing, I can utilize it to manipulate somebody as well, or just the other way around. Because the other person knows about it, the person might be manipulating me as well. So we have to be careful about this aspect. And how to be careful about that? Again, is it a fake or a true? How do I know that thing? The fake stroke is not going to open up your heart. It's not going to give you that warm feeling that you get from the true um, stroke when it will reach you, but it will do the work for the nervous system. And that is what we have to learn. And the learning will come with observation. Please be very, very open to, very, very clear on this thing, that all of this information that I'm sharing is not going to be of any use if I am not using my awareness, if I'm not using the presence of the mind. That is the prereq to any kind of self work, is what I would say. So that is very important. Okay. So another thing is that this is what encourages growth and fosters self-esteem. I mean, it's very simple, right? Everything that was positive for me gave me all the more power to do better and better. And I became more and more, worthy within myself. Even for that matter, when we talk to children, Why do they take certain subjects and they don't take other subjects? It's purely because this teacher had a nice impact upon them. And most of those children will say that I felt a, a kind of a special connect with that teacher. She spoke to me, she looked at me in a very warm way, she talked to me very warmly. And this is all that, the growth requires, nothing else, believe me. So the negative is just the opposite of it. It annuls. Okay, one more very interesting thing that I kept on observing was that when I don't, so whatever is coming my way, if I don't even say yes to that, so I'm not affirming what is happening, I'm not even giving back a positive thing to what is coming my way, it is taken as a positive, and that is why it continues. So I really need to utilize this negative stroking in that particular point. That exchange has to happen for that thing to stop, what I don't want in my life. So we have to be present to these small things. So negative, it annuls the present behavior and thereby restricts it. It identifies, supports, and reinforces boundaries. And this is the wherever I have needed boundary is where I needed to give some kind of negative stroke. It was as simple as that. Whether it was a very aggressive no or it was purely an assertive no does not matter. But what was required over there was this negative exchange. That's all. And believe me, negative over here does not mean bad or something that I should not be doing. It is something that is essentially required in that moment. And I need to know that I have all the permission. It's kind of a birthright that I have. No, we need to be able to do that. And the third thing is it's a source of critical information, at times in the form of feedback. So not all the time what is coming negative towards me has a negating um, energy behind it. Sometimes that negative that is coming my way is also giving me some information about what I can really look more into. So we need to make this distinction by ourselves. Then unconditional. As I said, it touches the innermost core of the person. It is something that the newborns require the most. And by virtue of that, please know this thing that whenever we are beginning something, this unconditional support, unconditional love, unconditional affection or appreciation or recognition, whatever we might call it, this is what is required. Beginnings, they ride on the unconditional support or love. And then it supports and reinforces vitality purely because it touches that innermost core where the vitality of the human system resides, which I have already spoken about. Then conditional strokes, these they initiate, support, sustain, and redirect. I'm sorry for that, change. Now, conditional strokings are very simple example is when we tell our children that if you do well in these exams, you will get that most awaited game that you are looking for. So we are giving them a condition that if you do good in your exams, and that is where this all of this initiating, supporting, sustaining, and redirecting of that change that we want in the child. Because indirectly what we are looking at is that the child will sit down, concentrate, work hard, study well, and then perform well as well. So it does that work for us, and it has certain importance in all the behavior modification that we want. It can be utilized, it needs to be utilized in a proper way. It also has that manipulative generative energy, and we need to be careful about this, because what I have seen is that people who have grown up with mostly with the conditional stroking, they do not respond to any other, at least especially the unconditional stroking. For them, this unconditionality does not even exist, and it is very difficult for them to even open up to this kind of exchange. And and it's really very limiting for each one of us if we really look at it. And this is related to the negotiations, the conditional stroking. It's interesting, right? So here I want to just take a moment and ask if there is anything that anybody would want to ask about so far, whatever I have shared, anything, any question, because I know I have been just simply talking and I was not even able to see the faces. Is there anything that anybody wants to ask or say? Please unmute yourself. Okay, so I'll continue. Now, there are certain, so this is purely theory so far, what I was sharing earlier. But what I realized with my work was that even before we start utilizing this concept, we need to make certain changes in our way of thinking. So the first thing is we need to work around the judgment that we have for certain kind of people. We see certain people are needy of attention, certain people are looking for too much attention, and it's very hard at times to be present to them. But ultimately, when we realize that this is a need, and need is not something that one can remove and throw away. So in whatever way possible, if we can be present to this need, it's something that we need to first inculcate in ourselves. And even though I said that to be present to the other person's need, we need to keep our need primary, because if I'm not alive, I can't be present to anybody. Yet what I wanted to highlight over here is that certain people need a little more appreciation or attention. uh, let's be a little more considerate towards them. And third thing was that we need to learn to communicate, because most of our exchanges when we grow up, they turn towards the communication, the verbalization. Very less is being communicated through the physical stroking, and there are social reasons to that, but still, okay, I'll come to that part later. So this part about communication is very important point. And what about the communication? We need to be open to it. We need to be open about it. What is that I need, or what is it that I am understanding the other person is needing from me? And we need to be direct about it. Direct means two things primarily. One, talking with that same person directly, and second thing, not mincing words. Because what I found out when I was practicing these things was that initially, obviously, it came out as a rude surprise to the other person, but with consistency, what they saw was that I really mean it. And eventually, they started opening up as well. So, somewhere the change has to begin. And this openness and directness also is the same. It has to begin somewhere. And why not myself, right? And another one is that let us teach ourselves that communicating own limitation is also showing affection and attention by way of me being sincere about it, and not getting into things half-heartedly, and bringing in that disappointment in the other person. Again, initially it might be taken as selfishness or rudeness, but eventually, definitely, people come around. We need to be with it. And the way to communicate is crucial. Again, it is being direct, being assertive and loving at the same time, and being open about it. Not trying to say things via around the things like, what if today we go for a movie instead to the mall? In it, instead of this, if I could simply say that today I feel like going to the movie, how does that sound to you? So it's like being open about it, I have literally said it out. And when I do that thing, what another thing that is happening in the background is that inner child of mine, which is part of that child ego state, is also getting connected to this grown adult, um, person that I am. So that inner child work is also indirectly happening over there. It's something that probably, I don't know. Let's let that be. So the next thing, I have been saying that in a way, we need to be at it. We have to persevere through these things that we start, and we have to be consistent about it, because the moment I turn around, the environment around me is observing. The people that I am practicing all of this with are observing. And my sincerity drops when my consistency goes away. So once I begin, I need to be consistent with that. And yeah, this was that. So the physical form of affectionate and appreciative exchange is still primary, even when the human being turns 50, or let's say 70. And very interestingly, what I came across was that after every 13 years of cycle, that person actually goes back to that 0 years of age. And when I came across this thing, my daughter had just turned 13, and um, she would just come out from nowhere and tell me, can you just remove everything from your lap? I want to lie down in your lap. And this coming from a child who is not really very touchy feely child. And when I would talk to her about this thing, uh, later on, when we are having just a rational conversation, she would say, I really don't understand, but sometimes I just feel like doing that. I don't know why. So that's something that I have observed as well, and it has been put in the theory as well. So we really need to be, and then again, if you look at the different stages, so 13 and then 26. 26 is around the time when we get married, and then next stage would be 26 plus 13 would be 40, no, 39, I think. Yeah. So these are stages when the system inherently would ask for more of physical contact. And I would be very happy if somebody has observed something and would like to share, because in all the TA groups that I have been part of, this is something whenever I speak about, everybody is like, yes, I have seen something like that. So I know for sure that this is something. So all this while I was talking about what all of these exchanges are and how they can affect and all of that. We know all of this, right? This is not something which is something that nobody knows. But then, in spite of knowing all of that, where is the issue? Why does this love stays elusive? What happens? So there are five main uh, causes or reasons that are spoken about in transactional analysis. So the first one is that we don't give that love or appreciation when we want to give. And we have very logical reasons behind them. Like, I know I like what um, probably a male figure is saying, but I am not really connected to this person. How can I appreciate this person? What will this person think about me? Am I looking for male attention over here? Blah, 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 blah. So I stop myself. But in the process, what am I doing over there? One, I am curbing what is coming naturally from within myself. Two, I am not making that contact, not connecting with the other being. I'm limiting myself over there. Three, this connection now, after having worked with energy, what I have realized is that when we connect with the other person, we really don't realize, but we connect with the person where we are going to get some message for ourselves as well. It might be very mundane message. It might be a very insignificant message in that moment, but eventually I mean, at least I have seen this thing happening over and over again in my life, that message literally plays out in the coming days in my life. And if I am aware of that message, I can take informed decisions, and I can take informed actions as well. But I have not even initiated that connection, so I'm not going to get that message. It's very simple. So this was slightly out of transactional analysis, but that's my part of me. I kind of mix everything. So that is the first reason why it goes wrong. The second one is, don't ask for strokes when you need them or you want them. Now this is again what we have learned, right? You should not be needy. That's very bad. You need to keep it to yourself. It will come to you. What you ask and then you get is not that very good. Its value is, it's not worth it. What you get without asking is far more worthy. And we are fed by these kind of things since our childhood, and that keeps us again away from that connection and that exchange. Don't accept positive strokes even if you want them. Now, asking, we don't do. Giving, we don't do. Now, if something is coming towards us, we are not supposed to accept it as well. Because how will I be humble? It's very strange that, these things, when we look at our daily lives and we look at our daily behaviors, how very subtly these things just creep into our mind and we don't even realize them. Another one is, don't reject negative strokes when they come your way. And that's a big one. Now, this was something that was probably put in, Claude Steiner says that this was probably the pig parent in our parents who wanted the child only to be the submissive child. And that's why this rule kind of came up. But then again, if we really look at it, those rules had a time stamp to them. Only thing was, the person who was saying out those sentences as rules didn't himself or herself know that these are just for the time being. You need to listen to me right now. Shut your mouth and listen to me. It didn't mean that you cannot, reject what outside of this particular moment comes towards your way. They forgot to say that thing, or they probably were not aware of that. But now that I have grown up, I can really take care of this aspect. And that is where my self-work is. I need to be aware of these moments and give myself permission. And we'll be coming back to that. And the fifth one is, don't give yourself strokes. It's interesting. If I don't don't get it out from outside, if I don't accept what is coming towards me, and I don't give it to myself, from where the hell am I going to get it? It's all taking me towards that disconnected, unloved, unrecognized state. So we need to be careful about these five so-called reasons. Now, what to do? In a very simple way, it is just the opposite of what the issue is. If you have been not asking for it, learn to ask for it. It's that simple as that. So to begin with, we have to first give ourselves permission, at least for one or two to begin with, and eventually for all the five. So let's look at the first one. So the permission is that, so the opposite is that I have to give strokes when I have them. And I literally mean it. Indulge in appreciating, like literally go looking for what is good that the other person is saying or doing. Even if it simply means their smile, even if it simply means how polite they are, it will do a lot more than just build that connection in that moment with that person for you. That will open up eventually, I'm sure of that. The second one is, ask for strokes when you need them or want them, which is just the opposite of what the rule was. Now, here we need to be, we need to learn actually how to ask for it effectively, because we really do, first of all, we don't know how to ask. We But do we know that we have been asking sometimes here and there? Have you seen the cook, or let's say the wife, asking at dinner table, how is the food today? It's a very simple scenario, right? This is what they are doing. They are asking for a stroke. And what comes their way is generally, um, acha hai? Okay. Now, the problem over there is the affection has already come. Food is good, acha hai, but the fixation on this answer to come in a particular way only is where she is not accepting that. It, it was not said in a nice way, it was not said with a smile or some other reason, the tone was not like that, the person did not even look at me, or whatever reason we might be telling ourselves in our minds, but we just shut it out. So learn to ask effectively. Probably it could be, is this tasting slightly different? I think I tried something different today. Just fooling with that would probably make them take notice and come out with something. That is just simple silly example that I'm giving. But then yes, when it comes to asking for strokes, we have to be careful about two things. One is that the other person will give only if that person is willing to give. So sometimes we ask but we don't get, so we do not have to feel dejected, because the other person might be coming from the another kind of the other rule, that you, again the same thing, don't give strokes when you have them. They are also under the effect of the same. That's okay. If not this person, I will get it from another person. I have to persevere, I have to keep asking. And probably if you are beginning to practice something like this, look for people whom you know will be open to giving you strokes, and start practicing with them first. Because when you will begin practicing, you will come across your own kind of struggles or hurdles that you will be able to practice with this person because they are open. And then eventually you will have fine-tuned your asking to such a extent that even the hardcore person who doesn't want to give will at least give a smile. I'm sure of that. So that was asking effectively, how to go about that thing, to begin with somebody who is open for that practice. Um, yes, and the second thing was, that is what I was wondering, something is missed. Second thing was, um, at convenience. Sometimes the other person, like there are few things that we ask from the other person, that the other person is not in a position which is convenient for that person to do that for us. So being aware of these small things and incorporating them when we are practicing these will not make us give up the practice completely, and will go a long way. Sorry. And the third one was, accept positive strokes even if you feel it is counter humility. Because, okay, now another thing is that this is an interesting thing. When I noticed this thing, I was really very surprised. Because whenever there would be a compliment coming my way, I would go like this, or I would close my eyes. And then when I realized what am I doing, it was like, oh my God, I don't even want to see the appreciation coming my way. And I am just saying no to myself internally. No, this is not true. It's not for me. So these are very subtle things that the body is showing us how we are not even accepting. We might be saying, yeah, thank you, like there is an immediate response to a compliment, thank you very much, but has it really been allowed to sink into ourselves? We really need to look for those very visceral signs. So I'll come to that. Um, yeah, so how, what to know over here is very important. One, when I really take in that appreciation, and if I really do take it in, I will not have words in that moment, because my system is accepting at that point in time. Probably a smile will come in. And if it is very, very deep acceptance or something that has touched me very, very deep, my eyes will become a little moist. And that is acceptance of the appreciation or the affection, not the verbal thank you. After that, if the verbal thank you comes, that's fine. But that visceral acceptance has to be allowed. We don't allow that thing to even happen. So really, this probably you can begin with looking at yourself in mirror and really bringing to your mind those appreciations that you really value in your life, and responding to them, really uh, accepting them into your cells. It's very important. Please take care of this one. The fourth one is just the opposite of what was the rule: reject the negative strokes. And here we need to be careful what I said earlier, that negative strokes have a feedback. So we need to know what is the constructive feedback in that negative stroke and extract that. Because many a times negative strokes, though they are very cutting, they are very at times humiliating, they expose us, of course, many a times, but at the same time they also have an attached constructive feedback which we need to take into consideration. And over here, okay, and then the second thing that we need to practice is to learn how to agree not to agree. And again, over here, this agree not to agree, if it is aggressive, it doesn't have effect. We have to bring in more of assertiveness than aggression into these kinds of exchanges. Then only it leaves an impact. Because when I first practiced this thing and I said that thing without really, because I have been a very angry person. And when I said that thing without anger, the other person was really shaken, as if like, what happened? Was it the same person? They really were taken aback that what has hit me. So it is very important aspect to be assertive when you are saying something like that and not aggressive. And then give yourself strokes. So if you noticed in the beginning, I brought out one slide where it was purely all the workshops that I have attended and I'm practicing them. And that had two-way reason to be there. One was honoring my teachers, and second one was also honoring all the work that I have done with all the blessings of all those teachers. So these are very small ways in which we can stroke ourselves. Really, if we look into it, every possible moment there is an opportunity for us to stroke ourselves. Like when I smile, though I'm smiling for somebody else, I am feeling it on my body itself. And just like literally registering this moment itself can be very, very deep for us. I mean, I might be sounding very, I don't know how am I sounding, but literally these are certain practices which are even spoken about in the traditional what do I call it? Okay, so I practice Tai Chi, and there is something called as inner smile practice in that, which works very beautifully on all the internal organs as well, where you smile and you kind of move the smile into your body. Now this sounds like a very mental process, but if you are into meditation and you know the practice of feeling it viscerally, you will know when you have literally smiled and taken that smile for yourself as well. So these are certain things that I kind of combined and kept them, worked with them together, and they gave me amazing results, believe me. Okay, so there is a golden order to practicing these strokes, and that is positive unconditional, which is almost akin to acceptance, is something that we need to practice the most. Then next is positive conditional, which is approval. Then is negative conditional, which is disapproval and constructive feedback. It has some functions, so we need to use it sparingly, of course. And then the last one, negative unconditional, which is outright rejection of the other person. And because this is unconditional, now what could be a negative unconditional stroke to somebody? Verbally, it can be simple as, I wish you were dead today. How stupid can you be? These are very simple sentences which are probably on the tip of our tongues. We don't even realize that we say this. How stupid are you? Or stupid of you. They are not really doing any good to the other person. And what happens with this kind of rejection is, especially with children, and is that these voices are what later on becomes their internal voices, and they keep on hearing it on a loop without any break. Every time they will go out and do something that is very smart, inside of them they are only hearing you are stupid, and they will end up being stupid in front of the whole of the hall, or the audi that they are speaking in. These are called to be self-fulfilling prophecies, so they are never to be used. Okay. Now, how to go about them, just a small recap. The unconditional positive is something that you feel within yourself and then express, then it will have the maximum impact. So unconditional positive would be something like, I am so glad that you are alive. I am so glad that you are in my life. I am so glad that you came out of this COVID infection. So, so really feel that and then say it, the energy will reach the other person without fail. So this is to be used always and profusely. Next is conditional positive. Here, important factor is sincerity and assertiveness in that. Not to go aggressive, and be sincere with whatever condition you are putting. Mean that condition and follow up with that condition. So I'll like to give you an example. So there was this one party where we were, and my daughter had a mobile, that toy, and the other child was so fascinated with that mobile that the child kind of took it away from my daughter, and my daughter was like, I want it back, I want it back. And it was a family situation, and I couldn't really, I mean, even if it was not a family situation, I wouldn't have taken it from the other child and given it to my daughter. But what I did at that point in time was I told her that if you allow her to play right now, and even if she gives you back, we will go back to the shop after this thing gets over, and I will get you another mobile. And of course, because it was a family thing, the party was going to go beyond the closing time. So I excused myself from that party and I brought that mobile for my daughter, and that has stayed with her. So really being sincere about the conditions that you are putting is very, very important. Don't simply put the conditions just for the sake of delaying whatever you are delaying. And this is to be used as and when required. This is very much required because, as I said earlier also, they are very important when we are creating boundaries. Acceptable, unacceptable is what is being worked out when conditional positive and conditional negative strokes are being given. The conditional negative, in addition to sincerity and assertiveness, another thing is that there has to be a rationale behind it, and that rationale has to be communicated to the other person. So like if I'm saying that you are being given permission, sorry, you are being punished for some, you are being punished, so I need to let the other person know that what is the reason for this punishment. Because even if that other person is angry at that point in time, because obviously nobody likes punishment, that reason will will slow down that blow for that person. And if it can work with a child, I'm 100% sure it can work with an adult as well, because adults have far more logic and rational than small children, because their system, their apparatus of using logic is far more advanced when we are adult. So this is also to be used as and when required. And this teaches boundaries. The unconditional negative, never to be used. So that was what I wanted to share with you all. And I hope.
Wonderful. Absolutely amazing. Any questions, guys? Any questions? Spin drop silence. या तो सब समझ में आ गया या कुछ समझ में नहीं आया आपके. Which category are you guys in?
I really don't know.
वे कैसे बंद करके बैठे हुए सो.
I swear.
ओ बेशर्मो उठो.
प्रवचन खत्म हो गया.
प्रवचन खत्म हो गया, कुछ समझ में आया? और you're sitting there and saying different strokes हो गया.
स्ट्रोक दे दिया.
Sleeping stroke for everybody.
Yeah.
It was very well explained, very nicely done. So I think it's just the time that it's very late at night. It's 12 o'clock and सरदारों के 12 बजते हैं, हम लोग के भी बजते हैं.
Thank you, Amita.
That the best part was giving a stroke to yourself, the monkey stroke.
Absolutely. I'm going to show you guys a small video. I think some of you have already seen it. This is for specifically for our speaker of the day, which is Karuna. So let me, Karuna, get to, or possibly this time I'll be able to get to the
Parity rat.
if you don't get, yes, if I don't get into it, then it's not supposed to be. Then you can go on my Facebook and anyway see it.
Yes.
Okay. Give me guys 2 seconds.
इतना मजेदार वीडियो है. I viewed it twice and thrice yesterday. ऐसे कि कर क्या रही है ये? It sounds so lovely.
Yeah, it's quite a musty. Okay.
Yes.
So okay, now let me try sharing my screen. I hope it happens. You know, जब आपको जरूरत पड़ती है तो कुछ वापस सामने नहीं आता, दिखाई देता है. It's like that. Okay, guys, this is specially for Karuna, and this is where I met Karuna for the first time.
Yeah, the music it's much better, Anu.
Yeah, it's different with the music, but you see our beautiful.
करुणा, इससे पहले भांग आई थी या क्या आया था?
इससे पहले भांग आई थी, भांग.
वही कह रही हूँ, भांग आई थी या क्या आया था?
कुछ भी नहीं, म्यूजिक आया था, इश्क आया था.
Wow.
Sound आया था.
Absolutely, guys. And Karuna, इन दोनों सबके लिए together. 1,
Yes.
2, 3. CAT, cat. Cat माने बिल्ली.
RAT, rat. Rat माने चूहा.
दिल है तेरे पंजे में तो क्या हुआ. चलिए, I will see you guys again on this coming Sunday or Monday? Sunday. And with the founder of Life Positive magazine. He's been very kind to say yes, he will share his life. What amazes me when people share their life is that I learn every day so much more than I would have only learned in healing modalities. And I've actually understood that if you really want to understand the person, go listen to their story. And when you listen to their story, everything about them comes up. And what is interesting for me also to understand, people don't share everything about their story. And what they're not sharing is what is the most essential part all the time. So I promise you that I will try my best to get as much juice out of people so that you can learn. But if they don't open their mouth, I still don't have any way of sitting over them and making them talk.
गन्ने
So
का रस निकालूंगी.
So I can just tell you this much. When I was hearing the founder of Life Positive magazine, it suddenly felt like it's always felt when I'm hearing people's story. Oh my God, how little did I know this gentleman. And I've been meeting him so often. And don't lose that opportunity, because just how you go and ask somebody how you are. Try this out. Ask people, what is your story? And just sit down like this then. And let them talk and give them that and let them talk. They might come back and say that was the best talk that they ever had with you. Thank you so much. I really appreciate your support and your love.
Good night. Thank you.
Hi,
Thank
Noodle.
you.
Ma'am.
Love you. Hi, Noodles.
Hi, Noodle.
Hello.
Bye,
I
bye,
love
Noodle.
I love you, Noodles.
I love you, Noodles. Hi, Noodle.
Hi, तो बोल. Hello.
Hello. Bye, bye.
Love you.
सुनो क्या आज हम एक साउंड का सेशन कर सकते हैं?
गाना सुना सकते हैं? क्या बोल रहे हो आप?
कह रही है आज हम साउंड सेशन नहीं कर सकते क्या?